Anyway, um, welcome to the weekly whale watch. It's Rainbow Trend Streams, Rainbow Runner, and it's been a while. We have not done a guest stream in a very, very long time. I apologize. We're having all types of issues with the streaming software, but it looks like everything is finally synced up. So a lot of you guys don't know T. I figured it's well overdue that we talk about, have him on. He's actually one of the very first friends and clients of Rainbow Trends. So been trying to convince him to come on for quite a bit and really happy he finally did. So we'll do a quick mic check and let him do an intro and we can go off from there. We don't really have a plan for today. So anyway.
What's up?
Check. Stand by, guys. We are having microphone issues. Give me 1 second. OBS is messing up when I go to the main screen. All right, that is live. Microphone's live. Audio mixer, desktop. Can you speak real quick, T?
What's going on?
All right, so they can see that. I gotta kill these waveform visualizers. Test. All right, we are good. All right, can you guys hear? You can hear me. Can you hear T? Test. T, can you talk? What's up, Mally?
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, it looks we can hear you now, and we should be good. All right, T, there's your. We can go ahead and roll into your intro and say hi to everybody.
Wow. All right, let's give an intro without revealing my identity to the world. What's going on? Let's see. I started a company in 2013. We sold it to Uber in 2021. And let's see. I go pretty deep into that. Basically, I've been a lawyer for 11 or 12 years now. A little bit of a hybrid of both. Grew a company from the ground up in a regulated space, and so that's kind of what got me going on my way. Was dealing with state governments, local governments, while also setting up teams across the country. Did that for about 7 or 8 years. We were lucky enough during the pandemic to sell to Uber in early 2021. Been a lawyer either part-time or full-time in the crypto space since like 2015. Kind of started taking it a little more seriously in 2020. I have pretty large background in helping companies set up foundations, figuring out token issuances and things like that. Have done a lot of work with regulatory bodies and some of the exchanges. Some of the larger ones there have done a good amount of work with them. So yeah, since 2021, I've been doing this space full time as like a hobby / job. I kind of like work in and out of it, but it's definitely a entertaining industry. So my background without revealing too much, but I could probably go into it a little farther later.
No, that's appreciated, and thank you for that intro, because we talk about like 2021 is when you started getting serious into it. I'm going to jump straight into it. This is the T that I ran into on the moonshot days. This is actually 2022, but to date, this is my favorite Teaandme comment. We were commenting and talking about the FOMC meeting minutes, or the FOMC speeches back in December of 2022. And clearly it sounds like Powell was pretty bullish on layer twos. It's subtle, but if you listen closely, you can tell he's pretty bullish on it. And that was kind of the humor that I always stuck out. And I started talking to T, and also just the nonstop 1990s wrestling references with him and Hot Pins. And then we started talking more, and I started building up Rainbow Trends and stuff like that. And he started helping me out with advice and helping me kind of fix some of the things. And he's always been a great help and a great friend. And absolutely hilarious. So I think a lot of the comedy he does kind of goes over people's heads, but I'm a big fan. But we really
I
don't
mean,
have or go ahead.
no, it's funny. I mean, the way we started chatting was early on. I mean, you predicted not necessarily that like FTX was stealing customer funds. I don't think anyone could have taken it to that level, but you to a T had exactly what was going on, like a solid 18 months before anyone else did. So I actually remember when that all went down. I used so much information that you had given me with certain people that I was working with at the time to explain what was actually going on. Because again, I like you kind of thought that you had just information that you were figuring out on your own that was obvious to everyone, but like you were literally saying Alameda was trading against their own customers. I think it was 18 months prior, and you basically predicted the entire fall. I mean, again, I don't think anyone could have guessed that he was going to bail out his own hedge fund with his customers' money, but you predicted like most of that fallout. So again, I mean, I think you've always been modest on that. I always wanted you to get more credit for that because I think it's one of those hindsight things that everyone claims they knew it was actually going on, but absolutely no one was talking about it at the time because you had the combination of both if they did know, they didn't want to say it, and most people just weren't even looking deep enough to get it. So I mean, that's how we started chatting back in the day. I was just fascinated by the stuff that you were figuring out on your own.
Yeah, that's a long story, and one of the reasons I don't beat my chest on it a lot, it it hurt a lot of people, and I tried to get people out, and we got some people out for sure. I think even in Discord when we saw Binance take their move at FTX, that was like I put out as many alerts as I can. I was like, I don't care what you guys do. Put this stuff in a ledger for a bit. Let this settle. You're not going to miss a week of trading. Something really bad's going on. But I'll tell you how that like really started is I started looking at Alameda as the pinnacle of what I thought legit crypto trading with like algorithms was because I couldn't find much about it. Um, Anywhere in the world. Like every time I tried to look up how to make trading bots, it was just like nonsense. So I started following. I was like, okay, well, I know Alameda uses this and they've got to be crazy, crazy profitable. And then it was me and I don't know if you're familiar with, it's, I'm gonna have to look up his name. I forgot his name. He's from the Moonshot Discord, but he's also he's one of the few quants that's actually on there. We used to deploy bots on like Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, etc. And what ended up happening was we would have a bot that we knew was profitable on Binance and like Coinbase. And then we would take that bot and we would put it on FTX and the bot would all of a sudden start losing money. And both of us like witnessed this and we're like, something is weird here. Not 100% sure what it is. FlowFi is his name. So shout out FlowFi. We started getting like weirded out by it because stuff would happen and these bots positions would get stopped out when they wouldn't get stopped out on Coinbase. And we're like, what the hell? Like they're supposed to have liquidity. So we started seeing like weird things happen and we started getting more and more suspicious. And then Alameda started having more and more like mess ups. So we figured out like, hey, the whole Alameda thing, it's not real trading. It's a Ponzi scheme, and they've got a backdoor access into FTX, and you can see them like hunting liquidations and stuff down. Um, God help you if you ever shorted FTT on FTX, like they would hunt you down and liquidate you, and like we could see it. It's they would have these little blips that like Binance wouldn't have on their FTT pair, but they would on FTX, and there'd be these little wicks, and they'd cause these massive liquidations that would get people out of the thing. So we're like, dude, something's really tainted here, and we started like kind of concluding that and reading between the lines because that was the truth too. Like Alameda didn't have a lot of data. I had to dig forever to get like any pieces I could out of it, and we learned a lot of how like their backing worked. And the way ISO put it, he goes, he thought I was just he thought I was a crazy person who just talked about FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried and all that stuff. And he's like, then it all came true. And then he goes, once it all came true, he's like, holy crap, okay, I'm gonna start like listening, trusting runner a little bit more. But we caught it, and we saw when CZ responded. When CZ caught them oversized in the FTT bag and they couldn't get out, and they dumped it. That was the writing on the walls for me, where I was like, hey, like, I'm 99% sure they're about to get taken out. Like, something's really bad about to happen, and I think it's going to fall. And the last thing you want to do is trust Alameda with your funds. So we rang the bell and tried to get people out. But no, I appreciate those comments. That was one of those things where you go into a deep hole for about 2 years and you get to use all that information for about a month, and then it all comes crumbling down. And then what do I do with it now other than like post about jail time, But Salami's about to get sentenced, and I don't know if when Caroline's about to get, or when she's getting sentenced, but I'm pretty sure she doesn't have a.
I don't think they'll get that much time. I don't think they'll get that much time. I mean, again, I think it's like it's kind of just one of those things where it's like I mean, look, the fact that that was a huge financial crime, but the fact that they went that hard at him too, man, I mean, like, look, this entire last week has been honestly this has probably been the most shocking calendar week I've ever seen in the history of this space, right? Like, most of the time in this space, it's like price. You're talking about a government that was absolutely stepping on the neck of this space, like, whether people realized it or not, right? Like, almost every company was now launching out of the United States, and anyone that was launching in the United States basically was just having phone calls constantly of like, how do we not get arrested? Because it was unclear, right? Like, if you are, the US did this with cannabis too, right? Like,
Here's your
whenever,
Wells notice.
well, it's just but it's crazier than that, right? Because what the SEC was doing was relatively unprecedented. They were essentially passing rules, right? They would make a rule, pass it, and then on the same day sue someone for it, right? So, like, imagine if you're just if I just created a rule that you couldn't have a Discord chat, and then I sued you for it the same day and said that you're guilty of it. Like, that's essentially, that like is literally what they were actually doing, right? But whenever a government wants to essentially quell a space, right, that they don't know what to actually do with, they have regulatory bodies issue conflicting guidances, right? They sue people seemingly at random to essentially scare people from being able to do anything. And that's exactly what you were seeing here, right? I think the fear was becoming that states were going to start to actually regulate this state by state by state, and this was going to become like cannabis, which was just confusing to use. But at the very least,
there's a few states that were setting up for that, to say F it.
California and New York already did, which it was gonna. I mean, like, New York's the hardest on this stuff in the entire country, right? So, like, but again, what's just absolutely wild about the last week is that, look, anyone that thinks like, oh, the SEC was, people might have known this. Like, no one knew this was coming. The SEC doesn't just sue the Ethereum Foundation 3 weeks ago, claiming that it's a security, which contradicts like internal written communications that they've had, and public statements that they've made, as like a 4D chess match to then go humiliatingly pass or to pass an ETF, right? Like, you don't just have the president come out and say, I'm going to veto SAB 121 no matter what happens, and then back off that. You don't have Chuck Schumer cross the line and vote for something which is basically spitting in the SEC's face. And you don't have 70 Democrats cross the line to vote on a bill that, while probably doesn't get implemented, sends a gigantic message that it is okay to vote for some of this stuff in a nonpartisan fashion. Like, that series of events is astronomically insane. And for anyone that's like been a part of this cycle right now, like this cycle felt unbelievably empty, right? And again, like I've never been a person who like thinks crypto is useless. Like I think it's like I laugh that crypto is actually useless. I think you're stupid if you think it's useful. I also think you're stupid if you think it's useless. The reality is it's a moderate step forward in the payments industry and um a potentially giant step forward in pairing generally illiquid asset pairs, right? Like that's what this is, right? And so anyone who looks at this last week and thinks that this is not bullish, like no matter what you may read in tweets or things like that, you just had 70 Democrats cross the picket line and a bunch of Republicans give their support for a bill that would essentially allow securities and commodities to trade next to each other in a legal fashion, right? Like if you look at what, like why is Ondo going up? Why are real world assets interesting? Just look at what's in that FIT 21 bill. And again, you're going to have people who are going to try and be like, oh, it's not actually going to pass, blah, blah. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter if it passes or it doesn't. That's not the point. The point is this momentum is insane. And it comes at a time right when, like, I would say despair was setting in along the lines of like, this is truly useless. None of these products do everything. Everything is a cut, copy, and paste. And then all of a sudden, you see a landscape shift, and I don't think this is a meaningless landscape shift either, right? Like I actually truly believed going into this year too that like I didn't really believe that crypto voters mattered that much, but what I did always believe is it's really fucking stupid to pick a fight with crypto. Like you should never pick a fight with cults. What's the point? Like 99% of America doesn't give a flying fuck about this space. They don't care. They don't care if you destroy it, if you let it thrive. They don't care. But the 1% that do are absolutely insane. They're insane people. But I think that where they got it wrong was that those insane people are actually much more developed intellectually than they had previously thought, right? Like those insane people are much more akin. Like if you look at it, like, and you look at swing states, and this is like going to be a close election, and you look at it, Michigan, 1.3 million voters own crypto. Pennsylvania, 1.6 million voters own crypto. Arizona, 929,000 people own crypto. Georgia, 1.8 million people own crypto. Nevada, 591,000. Those are meaningful numbers, and people are seemingly willing to vote single issue on this. And I think that there was a massive realization over the last week that that might be the case. And now what you have is the situation where I don't know if people are going to take anything the Democrats are doing as seriously. It feels like too little too late after they tried to derail the entire industry for multiple years. I mean, really for many years, like 2021, it's not like they were out to let it thrive. And you've shown that crypto also has significant funds in order to, you know, work with, like basically support various causes that could hurt a party that goes against it. And so, anyways, to think this is not a massive turning point is completely wrong. Like, it does not matter if FIT 21 passes the Senate or not. The fact that that bill now exists, that bill was voted for, and that bill becomes the basis for something that will be edited. And the basis for something that will be edited gives a straight line for crypto assets to be a commodity, for crypto assets to eventually be listed and not regulated by the SEC, for security assets to be traded right alongside them in the same manner and be exchanged with them is incomprehensibly insane from literally 7 days ago. And it's like, again, this space is so obsessed with like up, down in a week or whatever. Like this is so much bigger than that. And so again, it's like it's almost like a time to shut off what you're reading and just only recognize those as the facts, because that is a massive shift. We have to see it last longer than a week before I actually like believe it fully. But it's funny. Like it's funny. Like you even see like I don't know much about the approval of the ETF or not, but you see people online being like, oh, they delegated authority to someone. It's like, dude, come on. Gensler's not gonna delegate authority to someone approve an ETF and then humiliate his own employees 8 days later and be like, yeah, they're idiots. We're not actually approving it. That's not a thing. It's not a thing. So it's just patience. It's just patience, and like we'll see what happens here. But like this cycle was probably just accelerated, but it was also just given new life because you could potentially see a lot of things return back to the United States, which would be unbelievably meaningful for the industry. We've seen how scattered it gets when you take it out of this country.
So that was an amazing rant. Let me back this up a bit. So one of the things you mentioned was elected officials not underestimating the power of the cult, and the fact that it's branched into a bunch of voters as well as people who are willing to fight. Now the stuff that we're all excited about this week is stuff that's taken years and years and years. So I guess who would be, in your opinion, be the people that fought to lay this out to where we could actually get the wins this week? Like Grayscale comes to mind, the XRP fighting like hell, as well as like Coinbase fighting like hell against the SEC. But I was wondering what are your highlights on that thought?
I think it's the industry in general. Like if you look at like the actual super PAC that's out there, that's not any individual company. That's like the industry basically saying we're sick of it, right? Like what this industry has done, which is really unique, right, is that in general, if you're a bank, if you're an exchange, if you're a company, and the SEC comes knocking at your door, you say, thank you, we'll take the fine, we appreciate it, please don't come back. This industry actually did that for many, many years. And then eventually, you know, the thing that happens when you are finally told that there's nothing you can do for them to allow you to operate your business, I think that was freeing to a lot of companies, right? Because at some point it's like, okay, so you basically just said, we could come and try and follow every single one of your made up rules that don't even make sense, and you still wouldn't approve us. So who cares anymore? Like, we will countersue you. We will fight your lawsuits. We will go against you, right? And I think the problem is they actually declared war on an industry. And it's not the smartest thing in the world to declare war on an industry that can print its own money. Let's be dead honest. Like, no matter what you feel about it, like, right? Like, I don't think anyone would defend that every company in this space is perfect. Absolutely. I think it would be dumb to defend that there's no like legit companies in this space. I also think it would be dumb to say that there are not many, many more bad companies than there are good. But the rules have also not allowed any of these companies to actually do this, right? So when you kind of look at it, it's like, you know, look, it's a bunch of companies coming together to say, hey, we have weight that we can throw around. It's crypto owners actually revealing themselves to be, you know, 90% completely fucking insane, but like 10% actually reasonable people that live in key states that may have been Democrat in the past that are now considering voting for someone they never would have voted for in the past because they believe, due to the behavior of this regime, that it doesn't matter who you actually vote for, right? And they might as well vote for you know, who they actually care about. Like, again, I think, like, look, this industry is really interesting because it you kind of see the beginnings of what it looks like to self-regulate, right? Like, beginning of this, every single coin ever pumped, right? Every single coin ever rugged, right? 2020, 2021, everyone got themselves convinced that there were all these deities and amazing businessmen out there, and you realize they're fucking nothing, right? They're just are what they are. They're just marketing machines. Everything rugs. This time around was a full acknowledgement that everything was useless, and so it's just a casino, so we might as well gamble, right? Now, that was an interesting combination of both scary, which you don't want that to happen for a super long period of time. There's only so long you can like have people be like, it's bound to go up every 4 years, but it's a total useless joke, right? You needed a moment like this to start to actually shift that, but you did start to see it. People turn on influencers, they turn on the private sales, they turn on the token generation events. This is all BS. They turn on the teams that are launching it. You're just copy and pasting stuff. And they start to just go into projects that, whether they believe them to be fair or not, which they are not, but whether they believe them to be fair or not, they go into these memes, or at least they perceive they have a better chance. even though most of those are launched in a similar fashion, but like, I think that they at least go into those perceived that they have a better chance. You could see the market regulating itself. It regulated itself into stupidity, like, because this market's the best, but like it was regulating itself, right? So I think it's like this could be a very significant turning point, because again, like when you're advising someone that launches a token, like everyone is like, this industry is useless. Well, you know why it's useless? Because the token, right? Tokens are the best and the worst things to ever happen to this space, right? Like tokens bring everyone here. The only reason that we're here is because of tokens, right? But a token is arguably the least healthy thing a company can possibly roll out, right? Like imagine you're trying to start a company and you're trying to find product market fit. And instead, what people are asking for is a white paper where you pretend like you have any idea what's going to happen for 3 years, even though you're a startup, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? And then instead of worrying about how are we going to bring in customers, how are we going to build this product to make sense, now you have a token out there, right, that represents literally like theoretical, like a liquidatable perception of your company's worth. You can't share profits with that. You can barely talk about it. It doesn't actually represent ownership. It represents some kind of governance rights that are completely useless, and you make up a utility for it to have, even though it has absolutely none because you're forced to, right? Like that token would mean something if you could share profits with it, if you could do certain things. But as long as companies have to do that, it's really hard to make an argument that anything else is going to happen. Then you have a bunch of young people running a company that are making emotional choices, which happens when you run a company, who can liquidate assets immediately. You have a bunch of investors who are investing in a young company, which is up and down. The company I started did not go straight up, man. It was up, down, up, down, up, down. And if I could have liquidated it with a token, dude, 2014, I'd be like, fuck the CEO. I'm selling $400,000 of this. 2017, I'm like, fuck the CEO. I'm selling $500,000 of this. Like, you would just do that because it's not healthy, but you're locked into that stuff. An investor who only wants to invest in the shiny new thing would constantly sell out of your token if they could, but they're locked in. There's nothing that they can actually do, right? Now, that is the beauty of the space, but that is the danger of the space. So my point being is that if you can actually get legitimate regulations into this space, if you can actually start to figure out ways to have securities trade next to tokens, if you can have a path where people can either decide, I want to have a token or I don't want to have a token, if you can have rules around how long you have to be around as a company before you roll out a token, if you can have rules around the disclosures you have to make in terms of money you make, customers you have, etc., before you roll out an actual token, you will actually probably create a somewhat healthy space that over time becomes boring, and I'll probably get sick of it, but like actually becomes somewhat successful. Like it does. I'll tell you right now, there are exchanges out there, new exchanges that are minting money, DEXs that are minting money. Like they have like a $6 million burn rate, and they're going to make like $120 million run rate this year. And if that was an AI company, that company would be valued at $30 billion. It doesn't take a lot for this industry to go from that's a total joke to they make how much. Right now, it's only exchanges, right? Exchanges are, because that's all that matters in this industry so far. And newsflash, that's probably all that will ever matter in this industry, because it's the freaking financial like railroad. It's just, anyways, I could go into this forever, but it's like everyone wants this industry to be so much more than it is. They want it to be video games and all this stuff. That shit's never gonna work. Maybe crypto works as a feature in like some of that stuff, but what this industry is financial rails. There's a reason all the marketing is stupid. It's a bunch of words no one knows, and you read it and you're like, what? It's because like you would never walk into Starbucks and like pay with your iPhone and turn around to the dude behind you and be like, you see that shit? Like 1,800 transactions a second. Like your fucking Android can only produce 1,679 a second. Like, and your money won't settle with Starbucks for another like a minute and a half. Like we're basically pitching B2B sales tactics on B2C customers, and it has to stop at some point. So again,
it's the most cringy thing ever when they force a Starbucks employee to, and people film it. Hey, can you please let me buy a cup of coffee with Litecoin? And it's like they have to mess with the computers. Hey, it worked. Isn't this great? This is great.
Well, it's like everyone who's really bullish on crypto as a payment. I think it's interesting as a payment. I would counter argue a little bit is like, you know, how many people, I guess maybe this is the wrong thing, but how many people like going into a store and paying with your debit card versus your credit card? Like I would imagine a lot of people prefer their credit card. You get points, you get all sorts of stuff. So maybe crypto can figure it out. I don't like to pay with a debit card. I don't like to pay with a finite amount of assets. I like to pay with credit. So like crypto has a lot of stuff it has to figure out, but it hasn't been allowed to figure that out is my point. And this week is the most bullish regulatory week I've ever seen if you want to see the industry figure it out.
Why? What this week specifically woke you up? Everyone's talking ETF, but I know you're talking more than that.
The ETF is just like an overall sick because I think it was an acknowledgement that while the space has a dubious at best customer base, that it has the ability to impact politics, right? It's not just like a total, and it all they had to do was look at the market. Like this space isn't a total joke. It has trillions of dollars in market cap. It might be trillions of dollars of complete jokes, but it's still trillions of dollars of actual assets. And for them to think that it got to that level, heavily United States based and APAC based, but heavily US based, and like that no one cared about this stuff. Like crypto literally like is again, people didn't used to fight the SEC. I don't know, maybe they just weren't taking the numbers seriously. But again, you don't get attention in Washington from like, look, it's fine. If you're Facebook, if you're OpenAI, you get attention through mass success. But for the most part, you get attention through a slow grind over a long period of time. This industry's only been around for a blip on the radar for 13, 14 years. And it's now finally like this industry has money. This industry can do stuff. This industry has customers that care about the actual product. And this industry will vote against you if you don't acknowledge that it exists and attempt to make rules around it. Like that's a really, really big deal because right now everything is just like, how do we launch a token? Well, to launch a token, you know, set up a Panama foundation, set up a Cayman foundation. You're not involved in that. You can't run the foundation. Yes, the foundation can make decisions without you. Like, no, you can't share profit. You know, like again,
I remember Gary coming out and saying, "Well, the team had social media. That's a big no-no." Like it's like, dude, this is just let us comply, but tell us how.
To me, it's this simple, right? If there is an entity overseas that you don't, let's say you wanted to make a token, right? But you didn't. But forget you want to make a token. Let's say someone wanted to make a token, right? You can't make it. But let's say there is an entity overseas, and you don't own that entity, and that entity has an independent board, and you have no a decision-making power over that entity. And that entity decides, I want to make a token that helps support people charting better, right? And they identified you as someone that can help them do that, and they identified a foundation. And let's say that when they identified you, they said, we're going to issue this guy 1 million tokens, right? To help, you know, build this out. That's not a security, right? Like if, let's say you had 5,000 apples and I was like, Runner, I'll give you $20 million for those apples. You'd be like, you're a fucking idiot, but you'd sell them to me, right? But if you had 5,000 apples and you said, each one of these apples represents a share in my company. Every one of these apples that you hold, I will share profit with you. And I'm going to light 2,500 of these apples on fire so that they're gone to guarantee you that your apples are more rare. And I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that your apples go up in value by making my company more valuable. Well, the apple's a security, right? Like so it's not, again, it's the behavior around the token that matters. And as you can see in this industry, I guarantee you look under the surface, the behavior is bad 99% of the time. But that doesn't mean that these companies can't reach a certain point. Like a rose doesn't grow from the concrete. Like decentralization can't just create something out of nowhere. Now, when AI comes along, I'd question whether that's true or not, but I'm sure they'll put laws in there. But what I'm saying is like a company has to have someone start it. A company has to have someone build it. What the Fit 21 bill is meant to do is to acknowledge that there is a point in time that a company can go from centralized to decentralized. And if it gets to that decentralized level, it makes sense to have the token to be able to trade. And that you can't hold someone accountable originally for the centralized aspect of it as long as it doesn't do something illegal, right? If it phases itself into the decentralized aspect. It's a bill that has, like, it needs work, but I think like the fact that they voted yes on that, that didn't happen in like a week. There was a lot of work that went into that. I just don't know if anyone expected that to get voted on yes on a week ago or 4 weeks ago when SEC sued the Ethereum Foundation. So again, it's just like, it's funny. It's this space is ridiculous.
Is that lawsuit done, or are they going to continue that as well, even though this is like these things are passing and approved?
I mean, I don't know. I would assume that it's weird to sue something for being a security when you just acknowledged that it's a commodity.
Yeah, but Gary just does the hard things, paths. It's like people have like asked me like, what do you think? What do you think? And I was like, the one thing I know is he's very consistent and he's going to do what is ever most painful. Like given the opportunity, he's going to throw a fit. And I really didn't think we were going to get the ETF today. I really didn't. I was like, man, maybe, but I think we might have. He's going to make us run this through the courts again and argue, hey, you approved Ethereum futures. You have to go through spot and have a judge drag him back into the thing, saying, kicking and screaming, you're wrong. But
yeah, but it didn't. Think how meaningful that is. Like that's what I assume too. That's what everyone assumed. Like that's what everyone assumed. Everyone was under the assumption and should have been that this rejection maybe wouldn't have been bearish, right? In the sense that what it would have done is kicked off a probably accelerated version of what got Bitcoin passed.
Absolutely. Run the same paperwork with a different letter on it.
Well, just a lawsuit that basically said these arguments don't make sense. Would have been a little harder to deal with it on ETH than Bitcoin. But then, goes for 12 to 18 months, and eventually you probably see it pass through it being forced or a regime change.
Yeah.
Like, again, I just can't express how not lightly to take that was not the case, and this got passed out of nowhere. Like, I mean, nowhere.
I'm just glad they also got their 2FA fixed. That was that original passing of the Bitcoin ETF where his Twitter got hacked was just an absolute joke. Made them look even dumber. And then it passes, and it's like, people are shocked, and I'm like, man, it's just like, you ask me, it's like Fidelity's in this, BlackRock's in this. I don't think they're going to lose. I think most of these things is just going to take time. Like you said, it's like, I was expecting ETF not approved today for Ethereum, but I was like, give it another year. We either have to drag them through court again, or we're just going to wait for regime change. I thought a lot of people were setting up for that. The regime, they're like, we'll deal with this when it's easier, because it's like, we're close now. If we get regime change in, done deal. Because it, like, a lot of their arguments, like you said, didn't make sense. And that's one of the things I like low key love. I like listening to the audio and the transcripts of, like, whether it's the Ripple team or the Coinbase team, like getting into it with the court cases, and just like the judges are like, what the hell? No, yes, Coinbase is right. You guys are just being ridiculous. And it's amazing.
To be clear, I don't think the SEC has no point, right? Like the problem with everything these days, right, is just like, it's just like everyone, everything just swings from one side to the other, right? Like it's possible to, like, it would have been possible for the SEC to look at the situation and be like, there are legitimate companies in the space, and we're not going to attempt to kill the space. But yeah, we should probably do something about the 98.9% of these products that are literally nothing and useless, right? The problem is most of those products are not worth their time. And the other problem is they just they went after the wrong types of people. Like they went after the types of companies where it's like, you're going to drive your customer base to places you don't want them to go that are not safe for them. And again, I think like what I'm paying attention to here is I think that they behaved like that. They will generally behave like that when one, they don't understand an industry, but two, they don't take it seriously. I think they actually truly, and I think they still probably believe the space is completely useless, but they're going to have in the back of their mind now, like, well, I guess the space does have a lot of money. I guess the space is not a total joke. I guess there are people that actually care about the space, and there are people that will vote against us if we decide to actually do this. And in an election where we're going to win in a landslide, who cares? Let's wreck this space. In an election where we're fighting for every vote and multiple swing states are going to matter, and it's going to come down to a matter of thousands of votes, this could make a legitimate difference. And every single one of those people right now is going to go vote for Trump purely based off this issue, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's, and I think the big turning point where you were talking about is like they're not expecting like a fight. I think the Ripple team, as much as I don't like XRP, I think that was a big thing where like they didn't expect Ripple team to fight this hard for this long and have the budget to mess with them, because it's they just kept crushing all these small things. I remember like they would randomly sue the most random altcoin from like the 2017 run, like no one remembered, and then they threw down on Ripple and all right, we'll play. You want to go into courts for a few years? We're good. Let's do this. And then you saw there was a big change with, in my opinion, of Brian Armstrong. Hold on one second. My son just came in. Give me a minute. My apologies. There was a turning point, I think, where I don't remember exactly when it was. I think it was probably last year. Armstrong, and I'm getting feedback now. Where is that coming from?
I can hear you.
All right, so Armstrong came out and like there was a tone change of like, hey, we're gonna do everything we can do to try to help you guys like understand how can we comply. And I remember seeing like multiple like, let's reach out, let's work together, answer our calls. We want to do this like, hey, let's play ball. And it was just like every time they would try to talk to the SEC, they'd be like, wouldn't you like to know how to do this legal? And then like, you better not mess up, but they wouldn't tell them how to do it. And then finally, it's just like, all right, we're just gonna, like you said, we're gonna go push through this and start fighting back. And I remember that was also the time where they kept crushing Kraken, and it's like serving Kraken Wells notices over and over again and just crushing them, not crushing them, getting them pretty hard with some fees over the most menial stuff. And it was stuff that like Kraken would ask them like, hey, we're doing this, we want to set this up right, and then they just like, good luck, I hope you don't mess up or we're gonna fine you to death. And we lost the staking platform on Kraken entirely in the United States over a single, like, they didn't post a single page or a link or something, and that was it. And they shut down an entire industry for Kraken, and they had to shut down like an entire department. People were fired, and all this over just nonsense. And it was just like, dude, you had no guidance on this. We just sent away a bunch of American workers who had a job in staking, like on a very legit institution, not institutional, but legit crypto exchange in the United States. This is not something that was run over into the Bahamas like FTX. Like, we're trying to do this right in the United States. And I was just like, dude, I really started rooting for Armstrong and Jesse Powell over that, because it's like, you guys just need to fight like mad and fight like hell, because this is ridiculous. I've never seen an industry that's like begging, like, please pick up the phone, tell us how to comply, and like, we'll do it. And then it's just, nope, good luck. And then Wells notice, not returning your calls, here's a Wells notice, you're sued, $250,000, I need it now, shut down the business. And I'm just like, that pissed me off. And because I keep tabs on it, and I see these guys trying to do the right thing, and it's like, we want to comply and you're not letting us.
So I like Kraken, right? But again, I think like this is why this is it's like the problem with almost everything in this country right now, right, is that like there's no candidate who's just like, hey, like what if like gay people could get married and you could just like do whatever you wanted and like get an abortion, but we didn't tax you as much. Like there's just no fucking can. My point is there's no you either have to decide to be like wildly on one side or wildly on another. So with the SEC, it's like everyone's like, fuck the SEC no matter what. But look, with Kraken, this is the situation, right? With staking, there are staking rewards that are built into a protocol, right? And those staking rewards are pre-programmed to say whatever 2.6%. Kraken was giving out staking that was higher than what the protocol actually mentioned. Why? Because it was a lending program. What happens when you do a lending program? There's fucking 75 years of case law in the United States that clearly states that lending programs are a security, right? Kraken was stupid in that case. Everyone was like, fuck the SEC, but the SEC had a point. So like the problem that what the SEC is doing is they've gone out and they're suing everyone, right? Like they're just suing everyone, whether they're doing something right or wrong. And the problem that you do when you do that to an industry is one, you embolden everyone, right? Because at some point you're just going to say, well, fuck it. I could do the right thing over and over again, and you're not gonna and you're gonna tell me I'm doing something wrong. So I'll just keep trying to do things as right as I possibly can. But from now on, I'm not going to ask you before I do it. So that's kind of the first thing, right? The second thing is then when you have a legitimate case, everyone's just like, why are you screwing this over? Why are you effing this over? As opposed to being like, all right, Kraken, like, don't create a lending product and not think it's going to be a security, right? Like, it's like, again, there's no regulatory framework for this stuff to fit into. And most of these people that launch tokens, the reality is like the one thing and the reason this space will never go away is that instant liquidity never goes back in the bag. Like if you've invested in other venture funds, like you sit there and you wait and you wait, and it's 7 to 9 years, and 90% of the projects fail, and then like you cash out on a few of them, and then you claim you're the greatest investor of all time. This one, man, there were some runs there where it was just like the worst investment you can make was like a 10% return when things were going well. Things go up 50, 60, 70x, right? And like that doesn't go back in the bag. Like, no, like venture funds are not like, and all that's missing from other people wanting a piece of that action is regulation, right? Because pension funds can't really, they buy some Bitcoin, but you know, it's hard for a pension fund to come into this. It's hard for a real institution to actually come into this because it's the learning curve for just how stupid this space gets is astronomical. Like dude, like anyone that thinks like, oh, this is the last run or this is the last time we'll see this, it's like like tradfi is just getting Bitcoin. Like think of how like we're literally 3 years removed from like, man, I miss like fruit farming at like 9,000% APY. Like we're over that. We're like 3 years past that, and like, TradFi's just getting Bitcoin. So like TradFi is years and years and years off from just how remarkably stupid this space gets. And no matter what regulation you put into place, because of the ease of transfer of funds in this space, like it's going to be quite hard to ever like completely stop that. So again, anyone that thinks like this run is over, like this stuff will never happen again is dumb. But like, look, where this space is heading is there's probably 4 to 5 companies that'll matter. There'll be some infrastructure players that matter, and there'll be some satellites that matter, right? Like every single industry basically starts out unbundled, right? It's unbundled. There's a million people attempting to do the same exact thing. This is the all-time unbundled space. There's 70 layer ones. There's 20 layer twos. Like there's a million lending protocols. It's unbundled. Then a space matures and it heavily bundles, right? 2 to 3 companies win. Look at AI right now, right? Like there were a bunch of AI companies in the past. It was unbundled, a million people trying to do something. It's now becoming heavily bundled because you found the actual winners, right? There's gonna be 3 to 4 companies that actually pop out. This space is going to do the same exact thing. Eventually, it will find something that is useful. It'll find who the real exchange, like they have the exchanges that are going to win. There'll be the eventual banks that are going to roll out that's going to win. Because I guarantee you, at some point, they'll probably see that somewhere, right? You'll see the dexes that are going to win. Eventually, when there's laws, you'll start to see the ones that actually win. Once you get ones that win, you can unbundle a bit and start to create the satellite companies around that'll kind of be your growth stock versions of things. I still think we're like, I don't know. Depending on, I don't really believe that much new regulations coming, but I'd still say we're like 6 to 7 years off from like anything meaningful happening in this space if it ever does. But like that's where we are. But again, it's like the SEC just put themselves in a stupid spot because they put themselves in a spot where they created a persona for themselves that there was nothing you could do to comply with them. When you create a persona where there's nothing you can do to comply, everyone assumes that everyone's complying and the SEC just hates them. And it's just not the truth. There's not a lot of people complying, but like going after the ones that do, unbelievably stupid strategic decision.
No, I agree with that. Back up to the decentralized exchanges, you actually have positive thoughts on them getting through regulatory?
Yeah,
I
I mean,
don't think they have an easy path forward. I think
they have an
Sushi
easier
Swap and
path.
them are going to have to fight like mad.
I think they have an easier path forward. You think? I think that if you look at the SEC Coinbase case, right, a public case, and ignore the actual Coinbase part, there's a part in that case that basically discusses that a front end wallet swap um, is like if it's essentially if it's essentially aggregating to find the best possible match um, and taking a fee for that, it's not a broker dealer, which I think opens the door for a lot of it. Opens the door for front end wallets, yeah, but it also opens the door, in my opinion, for things like a Uniswap, for things such as that. I think there's an easier path than you think. It's just the problem is decentralization is legitimately really, really hard. So it just comes
Yes.
down to like I don't really know if any business can actually be decentralized, but I don't really think that's what's being pitched. I think decentralization is not what people think it is, where it's like thousands of people trying to make a decision on a single thing. Decentralization is attempting to be defined as I cannot unilaterally make a decision, right? If I build a protocol, I cannot unilaterally make a decision to upgrade it, to change the code, to remove funds, blah, blah, blah. There are checks and balances on me that are unrelated to me that I don't have influence over that also need to essentially push the button in order for something to happen. Now, is that an efficient way to run a company? Do I think companies can actually succeed that much based off that? Not really, which is why what I'm bullish on for this space is the people that start to figure out how to do like the exchanges and the rails and become legal on that, because that's where the money is, and let everyone else just create the stuff that's going to be really, really challenging to work. But I do think that if you get some laws around this, I think you'll get some companies that roll out without tokens that can make a very good amount of money. Like if you're if you're a DEX or you're an exchange where it's legal for you to take fees, why on earth would you launch a token? I mean, again, like these are very good businesses that even do well during a bear, and eventually a few of them are going to win. So, um, I mean, dude, like if DYDX took fees, like imagine what they would make. They're doing like $1 billion, like they're still doing like $1 billion in volume a day. Like GMX, I don't know what they're doing, but like, dude, there's some dexes out there that make a lot of money if they were allowed to take if they took fees directly into an account. I still think, look, everything's going to end up looking almost exactly like it currently does. So it's just about who positions themselves over the next 5 to 6 years before everything just looks exactly like TradFi does now.
That's a that's an interesting take. No, I appreciate that. I have more hope for them, for the centralized exchanges, but that's hidden in that case. What you're saying is because I've noticed that too. Is a lot of the Coinbase moving to the base wallet and allowing that, and I was like, man, really a way to introduce people into like hot swaps and stuff like that. And I was like, this is pretty interesting. And dude, I actually remember comments from Charlie Lee back in like 2017, like talking about like DeFi and how it's going to be possible to like you'll just interact with somebody on chain and you'll trade your Litecoin for Ripple and whatnot. And I just like could not wrap my head around it. And now it's just like, a cycle or two later, that's kind of like the norm. And now we're trying to like bring it into the making it legal as well. Because I'm a big supporter of Jared Gray with Sushi. I'm rooting for dudes, but I know they're getting a lot of hell.
Well, stop, man. It's like, look, if you eliminate the really early days of this space, like, okay, let's just take Ethereum out of it, right? Like, and just be dead honest here on centralization versus decentralization. Like, what are the biggest chains that are probably going to exist into the future, right? Solana, which was backed by FTX. If it wasn't backed by FTX, it doesn't get to where it is today.
Correct.
Base, backed by Coinbase. BNB, Binance Chain, backed by Binance. Do you honestly believe, other than Ethereum, Bitcoin, and those three, that any have like real guaranteed lasting power?
No, no.
Right. Okay.
I tell everybody it's name me 5 altcoins from before from 2017 other than like Ethereum and Litecoin.
Right.
Most people can't.
So the commonality amongst all of them is at least perceived association with large centralized companies, right? Now, they may be separate, they may operate separately, they may have implemented things that don't allow them to independently make choices, which I think is actually true for a bunch of them. But like, come on. It's not like this is a it's a space where we just need to condense condense the use, right? Like, there's too much. There's too much out here, and like we just don't need it.
What was that post you put up? You posted it, and it was like how many tokens are created on Solana every week? Wasn't it like 20,000?
No, that was some guy. That was yeah. Well, there's a lot. Look,
It's
I don't think
crazy. We don't need that for sure. Like
I
like
don't think you can take like I don't think there's actually as many tokens. Like, look, yes, if you actually look at every token created and take them all seriously, fine. I think it's just like how many lending product like let's eliminate random meme coins, which are basically there's like a website generator you can just make it at this point, right? Um like if you like how many lending protocols do we need? Like, let's be dead honest here, right? Like, if we actually believe crypto is going to be a payment industry, like, when's the last time that you were using Venmo to pay your friend for like a slice of pizza and you were like, man, I wish I could just fucking lever up 40 on this right now. Like, this paying this dude $3 sucks. Like, I wish I could just borrow $700 right now and pay him $3 and just put like $697 on fucking ETH. Like, that's not that's just like no one wants that, right? And I get the lending protocol point, and I get some people can't get like lended money and things like that. But crypto's not, I don't really think it's gonna help people that can't like get lended money to get it, because like if I go to Chase right now, I'm like, I want to borrow $1 million. How much are they going to make me show? They're going to make me show them salary, my net worth, and they're going to probably make me show that I have what, a fourth of that money before they'll lend it to me, right? If I try and borrow $1 million in crypto, I need to show them probably I have more than $1 million on chain. I have to put that up. Like,
yeah.
it's not a desirable product. Like, why would I want that for anything other than to lever up on chain assets, which is like, it's just, that's such a limited audience. So again, like, when I look at so much of this stuff, it's just what this industry needs to recognize is what it is and stop trying to force crypto into a bunch of stuff. It's fine to have crypto be a feature of real world products, like, but it doesn't make any sense in the vast majority of products. Like, blockchain technology is attractive as payment rails and ways to, create new native assets, and potentially in the future you could convince me that it's an interesting way to create liquidity pairs between like assets that you traditionally couldn't swap. But the problem is, like, that's so far off. Everything right now is like a trust me dude contract. Like, if you put your house on the blockchain and and you're like, own this NFT and you own my house, like, trust me dude, like, trust me, just pay me $1 million this NFT and you totally own the deed to my house and we're totally in escrow and like the real world will take this seriously. It's like, that's not a thing. Like, the amount of real world contracts and adoption that would have to occur to make that exist, one, by the time it got on chain, would look like a security, would look like the existing laws that happen. You're just bringing it to a new medium, right? So what we're trying to do is we're seeing how far we can take assets that are created on chain, how far that we can make that happen, and can we make those assets valuable enough that we desire doing the work to essentially comply with existing laws to allow us to swap into more rational long-term assets, which I think probably will happen. It's going to take a really long time because people don't take this space seriously right now. They just don't. It's going to take a while.
I mean, the real question is hamster racing on chain a commodity or a security?
Yeah, 100%. Hamster racing on chain was the best.
That was the most fun 2 weeks or week and a half.
The animal racing thing was the best. I mean, look.
You're right. You're right. That's my example. Like people pushing it too far, but some of that stuff is like they're not asking if we should do it. They just do it anyway, and some of it's fun, but like we don't need. And I agree. Like mass Fidelity doesn't need 500 tokens. Like I'm really happy to just get the Bitcoin ETF. I'm super stoked to get Ethereum. I don't get into the Bitcoin versus Ethereum arguments. I think Bitcoin's the best orange. I think Ethereum is the best apple, and they're just two different types of things, but they're great. I think everything outside of that is an altcoin that may or may not last a cycle or two. But like, do you like the next question is now everyone's like, oh my god, Solana ETF. It's got to be like. I'm just like, dude, I don't care. Like, I got the Bitcoin. I'm happy. Ethereum is crazy excited about. But like, do you think Think keeps rolling this with BlackRock and Fidelity keeps rolling through this and is like, all right, next up, I want a Solana one, I want a Bcash one, I want an XRP ETF. I don't think there's that much interest.
If I were him, I'd stop pretty soon because diminishing returns will happen. The reality is, if people want to own Solana, they buy a Solana, right? Like I think Bitcoin to me is the obvious one that a lot of people wanted. Now you could say people would buy it in 401ks, which I think is a legitimate argument. I think Solana, sure. I mean, I could see Solana being like useful. I mean, look, Solana is useful in this sense, right? Like if you actually want everything I just said to potentially happen, Solana or some variation of it has to exist because like a legitimately compelling pitch, maybe the only legitimately compelling pitch in this space is that if there are regulations in place, if, for example, USDC is established as a safe asset, which I think it is, right? And people start to be willing to accept it. If I'm like a traveling salesman or something or whatever, if I own a POS system in a restaurant and every time someone comes into my restaurant, pays me with an American Express charges me 2.65%, it is a legitimately compelling pitch to say, hey, what if instead of being charged 2.65% of that bill, you were just charged a cent and that money settled instantly? Like if people began to trust this space, that would be legitimate. And then if you bring enough assets on chain, if you bring enough USDC on chain to which merchants are holding it, people are holding it, you know, someone gets, so, you know, like, hey, instead of paying eBay this, pay me, like, use this, it'll only charge a cent. eBay will take less percentage from, like, whatever. I'm just using random stuff. If you can get enough money on chain, then what happens is people will probably start saying, hey, fine, you can pay your mortgage in this, you can pay your car lease in this. And then all of a sudden people are like, okay, so if there's this much money in this market, I want to advertise to that market. I want to get my product there. So I'm going to allow people to buy the product through that. And then all of a sudden you've created something that I think is interesting. To make that happen though, like what you have to do is just acknowledge that like what this space stands for, like you have to take some of the scary product stuff out of it. Like not a lot of people are super psyched about like, oh, cool. Like, so if I lose this 12-word passphrase, all my money is gone. Or like, oh, wait, I accidentally typed K instead of J and I can't ever get this back. Like that's not an option for people. And so again, dude,
I clicked like, the wrong link.
Sure,
a wallet drainer. Yeah.
Look at like Netflix and all this stuff right now. I remember when I cut the cord and whatever, 2014, 15, I got PlayStation View. and I took my cable bill down from $105 to $35 a month with unlimited DVR or whatever it was. I'm a genius. You know what my cable bill is now after all this free? It's like $400 a month when you include it. I think I literally looked at it. I was like, oh, it's like $400 a month. Like I accidentally subscribed to Paramount Plus twice. Like it's like, but my point being is like, what do you think this space is? Everything starts out looking like it's radical, like it's going to completely change everything. And what's happening now? Like this space wants to be part of the tradfi world. Like this space will eventually become a payments option. And if it does, like, what do you think is going to happen? People are going to want it to look more like tradfi. And basically, you're just going to have different and more flexible payment rails. With like a few extra assets that are desirable for people to be able to buy, that looks probably almost identical to what we see today. Like that's just where everything goes. That's it. Like it's the same shit over and over and over again. Like in college, I was a history major. Forever, I thought it was like a total waste of time, and then I realized like, oh, the same shit just happens over and over and over and over again for thousands and thousands of years. So like, I don't know. Again, I just think being bearish on this space is stupid. I think being overly bullish on this space is comically stupid. And the answer, like everything falls somewhere in the middle. And like, you know, other than that, it's funny and enjoyable, and you can make a bunch of money and lose a bunch of money, and both are kind of funny.
I think the people are the greatest part of it. I think crypto people are
Yeah.
just hilarious, and you meet the weirdest and coolest, most interesting dudes. And half of the funny stuff I find on Twitter, I can't even explain it to normal people.
Yeah.
It's just a riot. Like the amount of hours I've spent on the Discord just bullshitting with you guys is unpalpable. But sprinkled in that is a bunch of alpha as well, because I'm of the same opinion too. Like I think there's God knows how many coins are made every day. We do not need on-chain leveraged tokens that are designed to fight forest fires. Like that. Like that's not. We don't need that. We need a few good things, and I think it probably gets a little more boring as it gets mainstream. But it's going to be exciting, like the onboarding, like the Bitcoin ETF. In my opinion, I still don't think we've seen the afterburners. I don't think we've seen Fidelity and BlackRock go hard as F on this, and I am really skeptical of the supply situation going into the Bitcoin halving. Now we're only producing 450 Bitcoin a day, and Grayscale's pretty much bled out. So I think we're priming for a pretty crazy run. I don't think it's over personally. Not that this stream is used for intended for financial advice. This is a educational stream only, but you get the point. I'm bullish on the narratives. I'm on a lot of it. I think 99% of it is not really relevant because I've seen 99% of the coins over the past 6-7 years die. There's even coins that do not even, you can't even trade them anymore. They're gone. But it's very exciting stuff, and it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if this comes up in the presidential debates. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin gets asked between Trump and Biden. I really don't.
I actually totally agree. I mean, look, the chat that we met in is like the perfect microcosm for crypto, and also why I think a lot of this stuff has happened over the last week. As ridiculous as that sounds, like, look, there are some of genuinely the weirdest motherfucking people I've ever met in my life in that chat. Like I've sent some just weird stuff, but there's also like a subset of like 10 to 12 people, you know, who like I legitimately talk to. There's a subset of like 3 to 4 people who I literally talk to like more than my in real life friends, and like who are very smart people who have taught me a ton. I mean, the guy that runs the server at SWO is like, dude taught me 80% of what I know. He's like a borderline genius on all this stuff. And like, I think there's importantly a lot of people who are like normal human beings who like probably wouldn't be considering voting in an election in a certain manner unless like the industry they really like was being attacked. And I think that like our chat's just like a microcosm of a much larger ecosystem of people that like feel like that. And if there's, you know, 4 to 5 of those people in every single one of these things, again, like you don't get to $1 trillion, like multiple $1 trillion industry because no one likes it. Like, yeah, the Twitter bubble's stupid, but it's like it's still a lot of people. And like again, I think that there's way more swing vote impact that I had anticipated in there. Um, and like I mean, what happened over the last week was not done from a lack of data. I'm sure there is a significant amount of data that got someone worried. And it got enough people worried that you saw 70 Democrats cross the aisle to vote for a bill that I would have assumed none of like I mean maybe a couple would have crossed the aisle for.
Dude, I was expecting the
Crossed
votes
the
to be
aisle.
like like almost split decisions, and they weren't.
Dude,
They were big
Pelosi
majorities, and like when
crossed the
someone
aisle.
said Schumer voted, I had to go check it. I thought it was a lie. I didn't believe it.
Dude, Schumer and Pelosi crossed the aisle.
Oh yeah.
Like that's like that's insane. Like that is you can turn back from anything. But again, just like think of America, like think of how much of a legislative slog it is at this point and how little gets done. And how often you don't see like relatively mainstream things that are going to make it to, MSNBC or, what like
Oh, they're talking Solana ETFs on
no, but like
MSNBC.
on
It's
a on a
crazy.
on a bipartisan agreed bill,
Yeah.
most important. Like it's like both parties are now fighting over this vote. Now, I wouldn't be like everyone's in the clear. I think if there wasn't an election coming up, I think we'd still be in a dystopia. I don't believe that they won't pull back into a dystopia should something happen. But again, I think that's something. Let's see if that actually has an impact. I think the Democrats have probably done some serious damage to themselves in some way. And let's see what happens. I mean,
I agree. I 100% agree with that. And the polls are sliding way more than they expected, and they're losing youth votes. And like this week, they announced that they're going to hire a meme consultant for the Biden campaign, and I'm like, okay, they're starting to panic. And I think a lot of that started kicking off when they had that rally that had 100,000 people, and like there was reports coming from the White House like, hey, this is not in the bag. Like we've got to get this campaign going, and I was shocked because right now, like both parties absolutely hate each other, and the fact that they're voting across the aisle with each other on these crypto bills of all things, I was shocked on as well, and I was also shocked that the SB 121, the Biden administration came out and said flat out, we're going to veto threat. We are vetoing this. You're not messing with the SEC, and Congress overwhelmingly still said, "F it, we're passing this," and you go ahead and veto it. Do it.
that bill especially was like again, it just shows somewhat the blind attack on the space because it's like what that bill did was again the fallout from FTX, right? The goal is to
Whew, yeah.
never have people have to custody their assets in an unsafe place, right? SAB 121 made it so that if you custody crypto assets, you have to put it as a liability on your balance sheet, right? If you put like if banks had to hold, money that you hold for people as a liability on the balance sheet, their earnings report would be the worst earning report anyone's ever seen. They'd have to create a new version of how to report because it would be so bad. So basically what you're guaranteeing is that like if there's a small fry in the room, no bank is going to risk messing up an earnings report or having to hold something as a liability on a balance sheet for crypto, right? So like what you basically do in that fell swoop, right? You sue Coinbase, you pass SAB 121. You only do those moves if you assume the industry is like a complete joke and you're going to be able to shut it down. If you sit there and you acknowledge maybe the industry isn't going to go away, maybe it's cyclical, maybe we can't kill it, and you step back and you look at what those actions mean, it's like, okay, so banks are not going to custody this because of the rule we just passed. Also, banks hate this because it kind of goes beyond, it affects other things beyond crypto that are just annoying to them. We're suing all the crypto companies to make people feel like they're not safe to custody funds in. Um, and so where are they going to turn? They're going to turn to wallets that get hacked all the time. They're going to turn to crappy exchanges, right? They're going to go to MEXC, who literally just won't even give you your money back sometimes. Like,
Oh yeah.
like they're just, what the actions are is driving people towards the very thing that they claim that they want to save them from. And it's just because they didn't take the industry seriously. So if anything, again, the last week seems to be an acknowledgement that they have to take the industry seriously in some manner, which is a giant step forward. Like, to acknowledge at all that the industry has to be taken as a player at all is unbelievably significant. I don't know where it goes, but it is funny to watch people try and be like, this isn't. I mean, people are actually, I think a lot of people are actually acknowledging that it's important. I think there's always going to be people that are like, this doesn't matter, or this isn't going to pass. I think whenever you're reading stuff, you just always have to look at how someone's writing it, right? Like, very often in this space, in anything, people take facts and they try and write facts in like a very, very strange, not like a somewhat twisted way, where what they're saying is true, but they're like emphasizing the wrong words and emphasizing the wrong parts to make you think that what they're like. There's a lot of things I read about Fit 2021 where it's like, oh, this bill actually doesn't make sense and it'll never pass. Okay, duh. I get it.
That's
You have
every
a bunch of
bill.
followers who are not educated on this topic. So when you just write it like that and say, this bill makes no sense, it'll never pass the Senate, it's stupid, you mislead people into thinking that the bill's stupid, as opposed to writing it as, this bill puts forth a series of things that lay a foundation and groundwork for what could be an incredibly significant bill in the future. Does it need work? Of course it needs work, like almost any bill that passes between House and Senate. Like, I don't know that much about that process, but like, I would assume there's a lot of editing, there's a lot of things that happen between the two. And that it's unbelievably bullish for this industry that they even agreed to continue this discussion over to the Senate on what a bill like this would look like, as opposed to being like, this is fucking stupid and it'll never pass the Senate. It's like, you're not helping anyone saying that. Like, there's
The
just too
majority
many
of them
people.
don't even get out of committee.
There's too many people that have platforms on here that just like tweet. I don't even know what their agenda is. Most of the time, the agenda is just to look smart. But the problem with a lot of people is that, like, a lot of people just think the exact opposite of what they dislike. And like, they have no original thoughts. Like, their thoughts are just the opposite of what they don't like. So without what they don't like, they have no fucking ability to think. And so, like, what they hate, they need to exist, right? Or else they have fucking nothing. And you just notice in this space, and really everywhere, honestly, that like, that is a lot of people's personalities. It's just like, my stance is I don't like that. And so I say this. It's like, all right, cool. That helps fucking no one. Like, everyone has a piece of things that are important, and they have a piece of things that are not. Like, I always say to people, the industry I used to work in, I feel like at some point I became an expert in it. And I feel like when you become an expert in something, generally people should stop listening to you, right? Because I don't think about that industry anymore. I haven't updated myself on it and thought about it in 3 years. I haven't learned a damn thing about it in 3 years. And I'm set in my ways. So like, if you listen to me, I'm sure there's some tidbits that I could give you that are fine, that are probably would help you a lot. And there's a lot of things I'm set in my ways on that are going to totally fuck you if you decide to listen to my outdated view on something. So like, I just feel like, I don't know, man. It's people have lost the ability to like take a set of facts and come to their own conclusion logically for the most part.
That's what I tell a lot of people. Like they ask like, how did I start? And it's like I tried listening to a lot of people, and then I find out like 90% of them, it's just them trying to sound smart, and it's not real alpha. And then you find out there's a few like real OGs that you can learn to trust, learn to read, and then they're like, well, what tool? And it's like that also applied to like trading indicators and bots and stuff. Like the stuff I found, which was everyone vouched for, I turned it into bots and back tested it. 99% of it doesn't back test. So I'm like, okay, if a computer can't figure this out, with perfect execution. I've got to like find my own message. So that's where like I think trying to chase 100 rabbits on Twitter of who you think is the smartest or people in like a particular industry, I think that's really not the way to go about it. Narrow it down to a handful of people, but at the end of the day, like learn to trust your own intuition and your own gut, because that's burned me so many times where, you know, like you talk about people trying to be like the smartest person in the room. Like there's so many people that are crazy about Arthur Hayes. And I'm just like, you guys have to realize a good chunk of his Medium articles are written when he had an ankle monitor on. Like the dude was in house arrest for acting a fool with the exchanges. Like, and he got busted for some really dumb stuff. Like you have to realize really, really high IQ people can do some really, really dumb stuff. And like, you'll see some people that are real left curve and they kill it. And it's just like, you can't be both. You know, you got to be like you and do what you want.
It's like Arthur Hayes is a personality, right? Like he evokes nothing from me because like you can look at Arthur Hayes and be like this guy's like an entertainer. He's definitely not an idiot. He's accomplished certain things in his life that a lot of people haven't. But like, yeah, probably don't take investment advice from a guy who used to like trade his books against you.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just like that's it. That's like, and yeah, it turns out it's a little harder to be right when you aren't looking at where all the liquidations are and trading against your own customers, right? Like it's funny that he's still allowed to give financial advice when like he's literally done that within the last decade. But again, that he just doesn't really evoke anything out of me. Like again, in this space, it's like I would be much more fascinated to talk to Arthur Hayes than I would be to shit on him, right? Like in this space, I feel like you have a unique opportunity because most things happen on like Twitter, and that's where a lot and like Telegram to reach out to people. And like most people are just like they hate someone makes money in this space where it's like you can just reach out to these guys and be like, how'd you do that? Here's what I've done in my life. Like here's information and here's like stuff I know how to do. Like how can you teach me how you did that? And then like sometimes they answer you. Like that's how I met Swo. I just like I'm always like gravitated not to the dudes that like always post charts, but dudes that have like heavy thoughts on the space. One day I just reached out to him with some stupid fucking question about some random coin and then kicked up a conversation with him. And now like, I don't know. I mean, this space is like, again, this space is like everything else. It's just like a giant social finance experiment, which is really entertaining. But everyone just hates everyone all the time, which is pretty like most people in this space are well, some people in this space are fine. If you ever go to the conferences, you just want to like kill yourself. Like the conference, you just want to go around like knock coffee cups out of people's hands. Like you just realize it's like a bunch of like 24-year-olds who like made some money on crypto and now think they can give like health-based advice.
Well, dude,
That makes up like a vast majority of the space.
no, like every ETH convention is cringeworthy to watch. Like NFTs as well. The only one I would actually want to go to is the pandas. Not that I'm biased, but I like panda shit is actually like cool.
No, pandas bags is
it's the best.
An all-timer, dude. He's everything he says he is. He's awesome. Yeah, look, I mean,
your point is it happened to me too, though. You talk about like reaching out to people like genuinely. The only reason I even started offering or like thinking about like offering some of the tools that I'd coded is because Altcoin Psycho randomly answered a DM I sent him asking about a he offered. Like that's how far that goes back. And it's like, okay, how did you do this? And he like kind of like, hey, you know what? Just go ahead and do it. Do both. Like you're thinking about this or that. He says, go for it. You're not gonna lose anything. I was like, right. Okay. And that started like me like trying to code stuff for the public. Like none of this was planned. Like I never thought. I'm not even a coder. I'm a freaking like mechanical engineer who works with like oil rigs. Like I'm not a freaking full stack dev. I just found that like the stuff I needed didn't exist, and they were like, "Well, you can start coding your own stuff." So I just started digging through it, and now we're like at like Rainbow Theory. 5 years later? And a lot of people don't know T was actually the first customer to ever sign up on the official website. So client number 1, and I promptly declined your credit card and sent the money back.
Those tools have made me pretend like I know what I'm doing for a long time. They've allowed me to just quote random stops and supports to be like, yeah. And then I just tell people that it was you. But then sometimes I'm like, yeah, no, that was just my idea. I just I knew that it was gonna go there. That was me. I know stuff. Um, but no, I mean, runner, you've always been again. But like, look, when you first reached out to me, I actually remember you first starting to post in certain things, and you can just tell. Like, you can tell when people are weird. You can tell when they have no brain. You can tell when they're just like a normal person who's trying to exist in crypto, and you can tell when they're smart. There's not a lot of people I see like post. I'm like, oh, that guy's like making pretty consistently good points. Like, how does he know this? And so that's how we started chatting. I mean, you kind of showed up in the chat. I think I sent you a message on. I could probably go back to the beginning. So I sent you a message on the
Oh,
side. I was like,
it's got to be 100 pages. We'd have to scroll through, but yeah.
yeah, I remember talking to Doc when you first came in. I was like, this runner guy's like pretty legit. And like, I don't know, it takes people a while because like this space, like you click a wrong link and all your money's gone, right? So it's like you got it's hard to like truly interact with people for a while. But this space is also like because it exists entirely online, at least for now, right? Like it's pretty easy to tell the difference between someone who's like a normal human being and who's someone you just kind of deal with from afar.
But even
So
then, like you're,
that stuff.
it's fun too to even think about that. And it's like you're talking about that, and like you know me as a rainbow cow, and I know you as a 1990s Hogan picture, right? Like that's how we started talking. Like, you know what, the guy with the Hogan fetish, he's pretty cool.
I wish
And
I wish I looked like Hogan.
but yeah,
This
no,
is
that's my favorite thing about crypto is like people, you meet so many interesting people, and you get a sixth sense for like you run into people and you're like, I do not want to interact with this person. Like it's sketchy, that's a scammer. But then you want some like really, really interesting people. Like I've had phone conferences with like West Africa about crypto. And it's like, I don't know how the hell it's got to here. I grew up with Nigerian offshore oil field engineers, so like I get along with them really well. And now I'm talking crypto with like conference calls and stuff like that with these businesses, and it's like, how did it come to this? I'm talking about rainbows, for fuck's sakes. Like this is it's it's a weird
dude.
journey, but it's a fun one.
Every time I get on a call, I always turn my camera on just because I just find it. I just get so excited when I can be like, guys, you know what? There's the best sales pitch for your product is me being the only one with my camera on with 6 avatars around me. Like
There you go.
this is how people build trust, guys. Like there's nothing I trust more than 6 random pictures of NFTs I don't know, uh just asking me to send them $25,000. This is how we build trust, guys. Like this, you guys are going to do great things in the future. uh, it's just like this industry it has this whole like you're supposed to be like, look, I, I will I protect like for just whatever Discord stuff. I don't need to go out of my way to be like this is who I am because there's no upside to that. Like there's only downside, like there's no upside. But like I don't need to be anonymous. I'm not doing anything like this. It's like this space. It's like you just have to try and do like it presents so many opportunities if you just don't do anything outlandishly stupid or fuck people over. I've always been fascinated by this space because instant liquidity brings out exactly who people are. They cannot hide it. People cannot hide themselves behind instant liquidity. And you find out if you start dealing with certain people, like who your friends are quickly, because it's like there will literally be points if people succeed enough and are around long enough where you can sit there and be like, wow, that guy did not fuck me over when he could have just left with $3 million. That guy
Yeah.
did not fuck me over when he could have left with $2 million. And then there's like, wow, that guy LARPs as being rich as fuck and just fucked me over for $12,000. Like, I'm pretty sure that guy's not as rich. Like,
Two's rich.
no one can hide who they are in this space because everyone sits in a room by themselves and stares at that imaginary number on the screen, which always represents 30% less. You should always take 30% off whatever you see whenever you're going to sell it. And a lot of people just can't help themselves, and they'll try and move it around. They'll try and move it through wallets. but everyone, well, it's the $1 million man runner. Like everybody has a price, right? Everyone has a price that they will hit that button. And the people in this space that you want to be friends with are the people that don't do it. And the best part about this space is that in real life, you almost never get to figure that out. You almost never get to see like a real life friend be like, wow, that guy could have totally fucked me over for that much money and he didn't do it. Whereas in this space, you get to see it all the fucking time. And you build a trust. I work with very, 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 well, forget very few. I work with one person in this space, one, because we are just on the same page. There's no drama about it. And I know he won't fuck me over for basically any sum of money. But I've openly told him, I was like, look, if $75 million flashes on the screen, we're not friends anymore. I will press the button. I'll press it. I'll fucking press it.
It's
It's
been real.
Find the person who needs the 75 to work with, right? Like everyone's got a price, but that's fine. So yeah, like that again, this space is fascinating because of how simple the money is and how not real it is. Like I think like people just there's almost something healthy about this money not being accepted anywhere in the real world because like it's not real until it's in your bank account. It can constantly be lost. You can't use it for anything except to buy more shit. And again, like I think it's why privacy chains are like, it's like, look,
Ain't gonna happen.
I don't think the argument on privacy chains is, I think there's a problem, which is that if you look at something when it's really early on, it's really easy to say something is useless. Do I think there's a point in the future that the government rolls out a US stablecoin and that maybe the government rolling out a US stablecoin is what actually becomes the most bullish thing for this space? Yes. Do I think that when a US stablecoin is rolled out that it might be nice to have some kind of a privacy chain so that every single thing you do constantly can't always be viewed by the government? Like immediately, yes. Do I think that right now, if everyone is dead honest with themselves, and you're talking about when have you ever considered using a mixer, the thought that goes through your mind is always like, do I really need to pay taxes on this? Or like, can I send it here and like sell it? Like it's never something that is like, I want to make sure that my rights are, it's like no one's paying attention to you in that manner unless you're doing something. So again, it's like the problem is when cases like this are decided really early on in a technology, you just haven't given it a chance to play out. And I do think privacy in the future probably has a meaning, but right now it's like, come on.
No, I
Doesn't mean that guy should be held accountable for that, by the way. I don't believe that guy should have been held accountable for it, for the record, because like if you, the big unanswered question in this space that when it comes to privacy that they are answering is, if I build a protocol and you build something bad on top of it, am I responsible for that? To me, the answer should be pretty unequivocally no. Like if you build a baseball bat to hit a baseball and I bought it and I wrapped it in spikes and I hit someone in the head with it and killed them, should you be responsible for building the baseball bat?
so
I don't think so, right?
You're
So it's
referring
like just
to the tornado
cash.
death,
Now,
right? Yeah.
what they tried to say was he only would have built this with the intent for this stuff to happen. But like honestly, do you think that guy built that with the intent for like terrorists to send money? Maybe he did. Maybe they have evidence. I didn't read the whole case, but like I just feel like it's very hard to argue that people are building something with the intent to have someone build something illegal on top of that if they didn't build it themselves. And like it's not something that should have precedent. Like if you set that as a precedent that I create a product and like a theoretical outcome of that product could injure someone and thus I'm responsible for it, why would I ever create anything? Like I would never ever invent anything because I'd be like, all right, well, like, should I not invent a car because someone can crash it? Like, should I not invent a car because someone could add some explosive to it and like roll it into a building or something? Like it's a the logic they're attempting to apply to crypto is actually quite ridiculous. The problem is sometimes the underlying facts are not favorable or pretty. But just because the underlying facts are not pretty or the person that uses a product is not good, I don't really think it's fair to hold someone who just built something that someone else used for something bad accountable for it when that guy had nothing to do with it at all. But
Open source as well.
I wouldn't be building a privacy anything right now.
No,
But
the reason my take on that one is I believe Monero and Zcash are probably compromised, and they can actually read the transactions, especially since they put bounties on it. That Tornado Cash guy got extradited so damn fast and drug into the United States. In my opinion, the protocol worked, and they wanted to shut that down fast. Like they couldn't see what was going on.
that's not a look. If the United States is going to let this happen, I I like asking the United States to both relinquish some control over monetary supply while asking them to lose insight into it. It's like good luck, man. I mean, I
Oh,
like
they're not
again,
gonna. Yeah, no,
I
no.
don't necessarily agree with the outcome of the case, but it's like I mean,
It's a hard thing to
I
argue for
wouldn't
because it
find
looks
my
bad. It doesn't look good. It's
I,
easy talking points against. Warren can shake her finger at it pretty well.
you got to just have some big balls to roll that out, like you got to, I mean, again, I still think it's a pretty ridiculous outcome, to be honest, but I, I don't know. I wouldn't have created that. What's the upside? Again, life has to mostly be looked at for like, I try and look at it for a lot of things and like, what's the upside and what's the downside? What do you think's, what's the upside of a privacy thing? All right, if it's like a future dystopia where our wallets can be frozen nonstop and no one's allowed to spend money, okay, fine. But like, come on, you know.
Well, it's not like,
No
I
one's
mean,
gonna
that's the thing.
IRS can't even figure out how to get people to pay their taxes on this stuff. Nonetheless, be like, you know, tracking every single random $50 you send yourself.
I mean, they have the what is it? 600's the limit that they want to know about. It's with cash transfers. It's crazy, but
Zcash.
I just like the way Zcash wiggles. I don't care, albeit it hasn't wiggled in a long time like I like with the rainbows. But man, did it used to pay the bills? I guess I want to touch on something else. Is what are some examples of like startups and stuff like that were like you've seen actual projects that had potential that just, not to name names, but like fell on their face, and like what was like the culprit, if you could like share a lesson learned with like people that are out building and trying to develop and do something legit?
In this space or any?
Both, I guess, but I would think maybe more towards crypto.
Crypto. I don't know. I mean, look, it's a it's the token, man. Look, when you raise for a token, that's it. That's, to me, that's like most companies, right? You want to raise your valuation over a longer period of time, right? But there is no M&A in this space, right? Like, what's the latest M&A? That there's some M&A, but like the latest M&A that occurred was what? Yuga buying Moonbirds, right? For some amount of money. And I was looking at that, like, that's kind of fascinating. And then you look under the hood and it's like Moonbirds has like an $150 million treasury, and Yuga used their useless stock to buy Moonbird's treasury because the guy's like the divorced dad of crypto founders and just wanted out, right? So like, other than that, there's really no M&A in this space because it hasn't really been established. Like, what is the stock of a company worth if they have a token attached to it, right? So what ends up happening is when you raise money for a token, you kind of have to do so under the expectation that you'll probably never raise money again, right? And in general, like, unless you're OpenAI, like, the not healthy thing to do is raise a valuation early on to such a high level that there's no way you can achieve it, right? Like, if you go out and you try and raise to, like, let's use Monad, man. Like, their valuation now is $3 billion. What have they accomplished? Nothing. What do they make? Fucking nothing. What is their burn rate? Who fucking knows? What is their revenue? Who fucking knows? Who uses it? Who fucking knows? When are they going to launch? Who fucking knows? Their valuation is $3 billion now, right? That's it. They raised more money than they will ever need for anything. And that is their valuation forever. Um, so when you kind of look at this, it's like, I just think the longer that you can actually kick the token, like if you actually want to succeed in this space, as ridiculous as it sounds, can you be a serious enough individual to not release a token for multiple years, right? If you don't release a token, almost no one's going to pay attention to you, right? Unless you're doing something ridiculous, right? You can actually try and build. You can actually get customers. You can bring people in. You can get incentives. You can build hype that you will release a token, and maybe over a period of multiple years, people actually get used to your product and they actually start to like it. You understand what the customer wants. You understand what it doesn't. You're building like a normal company. You can raise at a $5 million valuation and a year from now raise it a $15 million valuation because you haven't released an actual token yet and people are still interested in what's eventually coming. And you can gain customers and eventually make your valuation more in the eyes of like people through things you've actually done. The problem in this space is just everyone wants to get to a token because they think it's a cash out. It's not a fucking cash out. People who think they're going to cash out on a token, guess what? You are going to, in all likelihood, vest into a fucking oblivion, right? You
You kind of
maybe make some money, but every single person will know that you're sending from your wallet to an exchange and they will fucking hate you. They will assume that you are actually selling because everything you do is on chain. Again, like this space is the least private thing on the planet. The funniest argument I ever hear about this space is it's anonymous. Yeah, right. Like if a dude sells $75 of a nothing, some dude can track that down. Being a founder with a token is a nightmare. Everyone will hate you once you sell. Your life revolves around that token. No one cares about your business metrics. No one cares whether you succeed. All they care about a token, and that token rotates like a moon around Bitcoin that you have no control over, that is guaranteed to drop, and your token is guaranteed to drop 75 to 80% minimum, right? So like the biggest advice I can give is just like try to operate yourself as a normal company for as long as you can. And if you can't and you don't want to, then at least make something really fucking stupid. Like at least just do something like really fucking stupid. Because if you can't sit here and just be like, all right, we're going to try and operate a normal business, then you're just admitting that what you're doing is useless, right? There are, and surprisingly enough, there are a few people that I've talked to that are not rolling out a token or that I think will actually probably succeed like 2 to 3 years from now. Like a lot of the Bitcoin layer twos, those will roll out. Those will be a joke for a little bit. Some of those tokens will probably go to up, and then a bunch of them will go to zero. But I think there's a couple products that will actually build on that. That over time, it's Bitcoin. Like I could see it realistically having some kind of a transaction layer on it, whatever it is. And if they build some customer base over a longer period of time, if they roll out a token in 3 years or 2 years or in the next bull run, whatever it is, like I could see that being useful. So again, it's like crypto is amazing because you can run your whole product with like 3 people. If you raise $5 million, your run rate's like 10, probably like 12 years because you don't need to hire that many fucking people and you can raise like a normal company. So the problem is people just give up, right? They give up. They see other people making a bunch of money. So the advice I just gave is impossible. I don't even know if I would follow my own advice. I probably wouldn't. But if you can pull that off, I mean, look at what it's done for certain tokens that waited a while to like launch. And again, I don't know. We'll see
well,
what happens.
I like the comment. Just do it dumb. That way, if it
Just do
fails,
it though.
people aren't going to be mad. Oh, the pandas or not the pandas. The hamster racing didn't work. Oh, well,
Just admit what you're doing. It's fine. If you're just in it for the token, then at least just fucking do that. Don't like pretend like you're doing something. Just you know, do something stupid.
that's good.
There's my
I like
advice, Runner. That's
I
it.
like it. I like
That's
it. I like it.
that's my advice. That's the best I got.
Um, macro thoughts. Bitcoin this run. What's a number that it makes you uncomfortable? Because I'm starting to hear 300,000 now,
I
and
don't know,
I was
man.
like,
I'm
I
over
know BlackRock's got some afterburners we haven't seen, but like I don't know. ETFs. I think a lot of the ETF stuff's already played out. I think a lot of it was grayscale, but it's I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, I don't know. I'm a lawyer. I don't really know this stuff. I mean, I'd feel pretty stupid holding anything once Bitcoin, if Bitcoin gets above like 135, $140,000. Like, I guess it could go a lot higher. I guess it just depends on what you see. I actually think that they might cut over the next three months some of these rates. I actually have the opposite, and I actually think. I mean, we've talked about it. I've talked about it in some of the other things. I don't.
Yeah,
I actually
I started taking your posts and shooting that to other guys in DMs. I was like, he's got a counter
I
to
don't
it, or a counter take to this that makes sense.
I don't think it's bearish. I actually think it's like quite obviously not bearish. Everyone just right now, you know, is under the assumption that that a cut is bearish, right? But look at the jobs report that came out today. 215,000 jobless claims. That's it. It's like bordering the lowest of all time. And like, so what generally happens when everyone is just assuming a recession is coming in a certain period of time, assume something bad is going to actually happen? While meanwhile, last time I checked, everyone that says inflation is not under control, every fucking time that I see inflation is not under control reference, like half of the references are like, this latte is $6. Like, don't buy the fucking latte. It's not oil. Just don't buy the fucking latte. Like, just go fucking store, buy like a bag of coffee, make it at home. That's like 12 cents. Like, all this shit is over businesses that you can just simply be like, all right, McDonald's, you want to charge me like $9 for a quarter pounder with cheese? Like, I just won't buy that anymore. And then what's going to happen? Those prices are going to start to come down. Inflation at this point for that kind of stuff is just a test of where customers are willing to actually stop. But like, if you look at some of this other stuff, right? If I asked you verbatim, what should rates be over the inflation rate? How much higher, percentage wise,
Man,
do you think?
I
Traditionally, the answer is one. It's one. Traditionally, the answer is one. Right now, we're at 2%, and forward looking, it's at 3. Right.
yeah.
So right now we are. Now, I mean, if you look back, do they want, like, inflation is still relatively high at 3%. They do want to get it down to 2. Perhaps there are no needs to actually cut, but in general, like, inflation is much more under control than people think it is. Um, Interest rates are significantly higher than where the actual uh, um, inflation rate is. Raises are thus outpacing in inflation in the short term. And if you just look at it, like, what happened last time Trump won the presidency? The Democrats raised rates massively in December, the month after. Do I think it's the most ridiculous thing on the planet that they cut rates into an election where if they win, they kind of go back to raising them a bit, or are they doing something? Or if Trump wins, they raise them again to attempt to fuck him into to have him inherit something bad. Absolutely, I think that's what could actually happen. And I think if we're seeing anything, like, most of the time when there's a consensus, like, it would surprise people the other way if something happened. And for some reason, again, everyone's just assuming that rate cuts are bearish. Yeah, rate cuts are bearish if there are reasons because a recession's coming, right? Or there is a recession and they're cutting them in order to try and get out of a recession. What happened last time we cut rates during a bearish during a bullish environment? Last time I checked, stocks are very high, unemployment is very low, and everyone is just assuming that there's cracks because credit debt is getting higher. But if they cut into that, right? Like, is that not the soft landing that they said? Are they not somewhat telegraphing that this is actually coming? So I am actually more bullish macro wise um, than some people, but I think like a lot of people are bullish on this year. I'm just bullish for different reasons. We'll see if it's true. I don't know. I'm a lawyer. I don't know what the hell's going on. But like, to me, it makes a lot of logical sense for this to happen, and very little logical sense for what everyone else is pitching, which is this like theoretical, here comes a recession, everyone assuming it's coming, everyone's struggling, they'll never cut rates. Why would they do that? I think there's a lot of reasons that they would do it. I mean, was there a reason to pass every single crypto bill over the last week? That didn't seem to make any sense. So if you need to know where influence is coming from, all you gotta do is look. So we'll see what happens. I'm quite bullish on that. I don't, again, like with crypto, the way I look at it is like for some reason in this space, like it's become the norm to be like 4xing money in a short period of time is not enough. Fucking stupidest thing of all time. Like if you 4 to 5x your money in like a calendar year, just get out. Doesn't matter. It just doesn't, like, it doesn't matter what happens after that. Like you never would have held it to the top anyways, and you'll buy it on the way down. So
Yep.
like just get just get out and be pleased with it. Like you're not supposed to build stuff over a short period of time. Again, like the problem is this space is very much made up of people that claim to have made money trading. It's total opposite, man. Like it's all private sales. For anyone to think these guys made their money on anything except private sales is completely wrong. In fact, most of them lose the money they've made from private sales attempting to trade. Like, and it's fine. Like, that's what this space is. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just like the whole space is this like this concept that you're gonna like trade yourself from $1,000 to $1,000,000, and it never fucking happens. It's LARPing. It's just like outright not true at all. Like at all. What it is yeah, it's actually totally doable to take $4,500, put it into a company, and turn that into $550,000 off of a forced hold. That is like a thing still happening today. It used to happen a lot on like every single thing that you did if you timed it right. So again, like all the people that LARP as these amazing macro traders, it's not that hard to make the theoretical calls that I just did, dust in a little bit of, but this is the other thing that can happen. So I'm not guaranteeing it. Post a few charts here and there, and then actually make all my money because I put $10,000 into this and sprayed and prayed into 75 deals. So it's like, my point being, I think you can actually make 3, 4, 5x from buying things spot and watching it. There are a bunch of people we know that bought Say at 15 cents, right? I don't think they're going to make 100x, but they're already probably up 4x. I think they could get to an 8x, and it's like, why? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, just like it's stupid. Just what are you trying to accomplish? Just sell it. So I don't know. Like, just imagine just like holding stuff when Bitcoin's like that much above 150K. Like, even if it goes higher, like all this stuff happens in like 3 weeks. All the like every altcoin you look at, it's like down 98% of the time, and it does an absurd move up in like 3 weeks. It's like every coin.
Yep.
So I don't know. My point being is just I will be out. I will be out
And happy.
earlier than I need to, because this is a bunch of useless garbage for the
That's
most
why
part.
I like 9Ks. Like whenever my portfolio is down 50% from the all-time high in that cycle, I cut. And he's like, I just at that point, I know I'm on the backside. I cut everything and go to cash. It's like
Yeah,
that is the least sexy thing you could ever tell somebody to do, but that dude will survive cycles and make bank.
it is actually doable, right? Like it is actually like this space has like real blackjack vibes, where it's like
there
like
there are some hard hitters, but it's only 1 out of 100 that pretend that there's a real one in there.
well, it's not even that. It's like you can hit it. It's just like what happens is you go, if I play blackjack, I'm Jewish, so I hate playing blackjack. I don't want to lose money. I hate it. But like if I walk in there and I take $200 and I turn it into $500, I do not take the $300 that I just made seriously. Then if I go from $500 to $350, I start being like, I got to get back up to $500. I'm going to bet $200 an actual hand now. And then it goes to zero. Like this, like that like trading strategy. I bet if you put it in a nutshell, is how a lot of us have traded at one point in time in this industry. Everyone has traded like that at some point, and then eventually you either just like find yourself like scraping the bottom of the barrel to try and find like every single meme, or you just
Yeah,
like
you hit riskier stuff and double down.
yeah, or you just be like, there is no space on the planet with a higher ceiling, and if I just like make that ceiling more reasonable and try and raise my floor, like this industry is the best opportunity on the planet, which I
Yeah,
think it is, right? Like, I mean, again, how many? It's like, think about it. Like, everyone in the world is like dying over like Nvidia going 10x, and like at one point, everyone in Moonshot was up 10x on say.
Yeah.
like, like it's not. It's and they could like you could have sold it as 6x or 7, and like I'm sure it probably goes up higher. I'm sure it does. Like it probably like it this cycle seems like it'll play out similar to others, albeit it has to spread around to a bunch more coins. But like it's just this market presents insane opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
and you have to be like, it's cool. I was really cool when I like 6x'd my money in 2 weeks. It's not normal.
Yeah, it's true. And there's a lot of people, and I think a lot of that, the big picture is just like the LARPing is like people want to make it like, yeah, you can you didn't you didn't put $100 when Bowden and Whiff like took off and didn't make $100 million. Like, yeah, that like people randomly hit like a lucky thing that explodes, but it's not because of skill. It's like a lot of these people, like legit, if to be honest with you, they got lucky. And a lot of it's
Look, I will say I do have like a modicum of respect for like the completely insane people that are like going after that. Like I could just never do it. I think like
it's a different breed.
I am now definitely a defender of someone who's like, dude, like, because the thing is this, right? Like, if you actually talk to someone who's like a good macro trader, right? And you look at like, if you meet someone who's like very, very good at it, you realize like, yes, their knowledge is amazing, but like 90% of the battle is just that nothing bothers them. Like, just like you could tell them almost any news and it doesn't bother them. And they take like 4 to 5 trades a year, and it's just like very, they, they, they have a skill of personality that is like unreal. So again, I think the people in this space that do really well, it's not lucky because it is a skill to be completely fucking insane. Like it is a skill to be unbelievably patient. It is a skill to be so stupid that you're like, I'm just going to stick it out in this industry because why not? Right? Like
Yeah.
these are actual, now they're not like marketable skills. I have no idea how like anyone could go get a job anywhere if this is the only industry they've ever worked in. But like, it's,
Oh, dude,
it is
it's
skill. It's a skill that actually could make money. And so again, like I don't think it's luck, people that succeed in this space. Like if I bought a meme coin at a cent, if I bought Whiff at a cent, I would have sold it at 4 cents. No chance I'm holding that thing past four cents. That's why my skill is not doing this. Right. So it's
yeah.
like, I mean, there is some weird, unbelievably stupid skill. And if you bought it at 1 cent and actually are holding it currently, like, I don't know how your brain works, but it's, I guess, impressive in the dumbest way possible.
I
But
remember,
never,
remember Doc made he made a killer whiff trade, and it's because he forgot he bought it.
he forgot. Exactly. Because he forgot. Because he forgot. Like,
It's a
there's no
skill.
way he
It's a
holds that
skill.
from like there's no way he holds that from $1,000 to $425,000 if he doesn't forget. He like opened a wallet, was like, whoa, holy shit. And then by the time he opened the wallet, it was SHIB at that point, right? It was like SHIB has a chart and SHIB like has supports and resistances and it's on exchanges. Like, but the idea that like the dog with the hat is like this thing's going to like imagine this being like like it's at like $1 million. You're like, this is the one, $4 billion. It's fucking gonna this is going, I'm gonna hold this thing to $4 billion. Like it's just, I don't know how that would be a thing. Like that bonk guy, if he's telling the truth, that's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in my life.
What
Like
was that?
the dude who leverage traded bonk and it's now worth like $14.5 million. Fucking
Oh,
incredible. Like
yeah.
I would have closed that thing. I don't even know. I don't know that guy's financial background. I don't know anything, but I can't like the the ability to do that is unreal. Like that guy should have a job professionally somewhere because he like has the ability to block out like all reasonable emotions, which I think is probably pretty important in this space.
No, it's true. It's And that was, I mean, that's a lot there, for sure. And that's a lot of like, I think trading in general is the people that are, you talk about being successful, and you're all right. There are people that are successful long term and do this. I'm just making the point that like all the people telling you that it's really easy to just bet on stuff and have Lambos the next week, turning $500 into 20 million, like that's not really a thing. Now there are cases where people do really crazy stuff, like you said, ignore every inner demon they have and just let stuff ride and make it. Occasionally that happens too, but I think a lot of one of the biggest skills is like being comfortable, being uncomfortable, like sitting and like buying some of these crazy capitulation wicks. Like you'll see Moonshot go hard on these capitulations, and it's like, yeah, we're buying pain today and don't care. Like, you know,
But the one I could actually understand holding on the way up, but it's crypto, right? Like it always, because these things don't have a use 99.9% of the time.
correct.
Like the emotion it makes you feel when you watch something go up 10x, and then you're like, this is going to go. And then everyone starts being like, this is going to go. And then you hold it and you watch it go down like 70%. The like emotional, like, fuck it, I'm getting out, that always happens. It's like, to be able to I just don't get how people mentally can watch it go 10x, lose 70%, watch it go like 15x from their original entry, lose another 70%. Like, especially the first time I saw it go 10x and then lose 70%. Like, how do you then watch it go back up again past the high and not be like, I'm selling this? Like, like how stupid will I feel if like that happens to me again? It's a legitimate skill.
Filecoin. Like Filecoin had a use case. Arthur Hayes is like loves it now. But that damn thing did a 99% retrace. Like, I'm not exaggerating. It's that on the chart. It went from good lord, 200. It went from $237 all the way to $2.38.
I need to look at this chart.
It's ridiculous. It people joke about the 99% retrace. Like FTT may have been a better investment. Like,
it definitely was. Well, wow, you're right. You're right. $240 and bottomed in.
This is a top 100 coin.
What
and
is
it
it?
actually has a use case. It's now AI pivoted, but it was like decentralized storage. Like you mined with hard drives. It was really cool, like on paper.
$2.41.
Yeah, let me turn log off.
Hold on. Isn't its market cap? Let me see.
I can buy this on Kraken. I can buy it on Coinbase. It's
what's its market cap now? I mean, I like know this coin. I just never looked at the chart or paid attention to it. So you're telling me that at $5.83, Filecoin's market cap is $3.2 billion. So at, but I guess the market cap, the circulating market cap, was not the same at the time, right? But if I'm to understand FDV, right? It's
number 34 market cap
divided by. So it hit on an FDV like well over on $100 billion market cap. 2021 was so awesome. That was the best. That was so fun. Oh no, wait, it's fully diluted valuation is 11. Wow, even right now, it's only 25% vested. So it's actually, is that possible? It was at like a $400 billion fully diluted valuation. That can't be right. I have to be doing math wrong.
I don't know, but it's my prime example is like if you think it can't go another 30% down, it can.
That's awesome. So awesome. I mean, this space is so funny.
Like it's a top 50 coin.
So funny. It's so funny. Like this space, like the rebrands are my favorite. Because it's like, guys, this coin that represented no ownership or profit sharing or anything in my company at all, which was quote unquote granted to me for this, is now it's no AI. I mean, like, but again, at the end of the day, like we laugh, but that's not different than any other startup. The difference is just like
true.
These tokens exist. Like, dude, there's so many startups that take money and pivot and never succeed. 97%
deliver a product.
this industry is no different than any other industry, which is why like I would actually be curious to see it with this Fit 21 bill pass because I think it would at least be healthy if like okay, a token comes out, but like tell us what your company makes and who works for it and some basic information. Like I think that's a fair ask. I don't think anyone in the industry is arguing that that shouldn't be the case, which is why just like a blind attempt to destroy the industry is dumb because it was like this cycle happens every 4 years until someone says otherwise. And now we're having another cycle with no forward movement at all in our regulation. And all that's happened is these businesses have moved further away from the United States. Disclosures are arguably worse. There's more people here that think that they can skirt things and make a quick dollar and disappear. And all we've done is scare the legitimate people in the space. Like I answer a lot of questions from a lot of people from a legal standpoint. And I can tell you, like, the ones that are most nervous are the people you most want building in the space. The ones that don't give a fuck are not seeking me out, right? Like, it's, and that's horrible. Like, the people that are, think about that. The people that are most scared to build in this industry are the people that are most equipped to not fuck people over. And that is because no one came out with any regulations. Like it's an abject failure to acknowledge an industry that is worth a lot of money. Forget the use case. How can you say something that's worth trillions of dollars is not useful,
Legit.
that keeps coming back over and over again? This is not like tulip season.
Yep.
This is not. And like with inflation, with things becoming less affordable, with AI coming and people terrified to death they're going to lose their job, where do you think their money's going to go? You think it's going to go into mutual funds, or you think it's going to pull up a seat at the casino?
That's a
They
really
got to
good
build this
point.
base to protect it in some way, man, because it's going to continue to grow as things become less and less attainable over a long period of time. And you've been in this space, like we know a lot of people in this space, like a space shouldn't have a general rule that you have to lose like all your money before you figure out how to make some of your money.
Yeah.
That is not good. Like stocks would not do well if the lesson was like, hey, you're gonna lose it all. Guarantee you. It's gonna fucking you lose it all before you figure out how to really make money in the space. Like there are things that regulators could have done to make that healthier, but instead it's like they want both they've relied on the market to regulate itself while also like making up rules as they go along and then regulating the people who are trying to actually do the right thing. Like think of like the United States, like Kraken and Coinbase, like they're trying their best, right? They're trying to do the right thing. And it's like
Yes.
you would think that the desire would be to work with those companies that want to make the space better, that are in America, that
Yes.
like that you can, you can control, right? Like those, I don't think those companies are against like work. They're not in any way, shape, or form against working with regulators to figure some of this stuff out. They're not against following rules. But again, it's just like you're going after the two biggest United States companies. Well, what's going to happen if I can't trade on Kraken or Coinbase? Where am I going to go? I'm going to go to GMX. I'm going to go to Hyperliquid. I'm going to go to Jupiter. And I don't know who the fuck runs those. I don't know what rules they play by. I have to put my money in places where it's unbelievably dangerous, that it could get hacked, that has no protections, that has no reason for anyone to know who they are. It's the total opposite. And I don't fucking know anything other than they might post something being like, here's an audit from some company you've never heard of in your life that says we're safe.
Yep.
Like it's so counterintuitive. It's just so almost comically counterintuitive that like the only proper ending to it is an unbelievably ridiculous wild swing to the other side that we saw this week.
Yeah, and
Like
that's where this was going to go. Something was going to break, or it was just like we're not going to have exchanges in North America anymore. We're going to have exchanges go to Bahamas, Canary Island, wherever you want, but it's going over offshore. or it's VPNs are going to get real damn good and people are still going to go to the casino. So it's like,
Yeah, and
give
we'll
me
find
something
our way.
legit. Let me be safe. Like, you want to protect Americans or whatever, sure. Like, and that's the thing too. And I think you hit on the point. It's just like they wanted to do the right thing, and it's just like, good luck. It's like, we need to call you and figure out, advise what should we do. And it's like, it's not like Kraken is a small thing. It's not like Coinbase is a small thing. These are huge companies with a lot of capital under their management, and it's just like you said, the SEC painted, like, they shot themselves in the foot, set the standard. Like, they're not going to play ball with anybody. Good luck figuring it out. We'll send you a Wells notice when we know you've done something. We think you've done something wrong, and it's just like, that's it. Like, the industry's going to figure it out. It's too big.
Look at the crypto total market cap in 2000. Its peak in 2018 was 786 mil. It's on its way back up. It's around 3 trillion now. By the end of this cycle, I mean, I don't know. It's 5 trillion ridiculous? Is 6 trillion ridiculous? I don't know. I think it
Dude,
could happen.
BlackRock, that's the thing. I keep telling people, like, what's your target? It's like, I haven't seen BlackRock go degen yet. It hasn't happened. They ate what Grayscale dumped, and they ate it all up, and now, like, we're starting to do the climb up and out post halving. Like, wait till Fidelity and BlackRock get wild with it, because there's only 450 Bitcoin being mined every day. 450. I don't care what you do. There's a supply issue. If Fidelity wants to eat and Fink wants to eat, like, no one can feed this other than holders, and every holder is basically in profit right now. Like, everyone who messed up and bought above 60K the past two big all-time high runs, they're in profit right now, right? Like, it's wild.
But I mean, look, I don't know much about that part, but I think my main point is being like, how do you look at this chart, right? I'm just looking at the total crypto cap and, like, look at it and not say, this technology is literally designed. This is not like cannabis where I have to move it across state lines and, like, it's a real word. Like, this technology is literally designed to digitally send money all over the world in a way that is difficult for regulation to touch. And think I'm going to sue this out of existence. Like, while the chart on how much it's worth continues to climb, like, in this manner. And now you're looking at a situation where it's like, okay, let's say it hits 6 billion or 6 trillion market cap. There's no regulations in the United States. Like, that's just a failure. That's just a failure by the United States to regulate an industry that, like, quite frankly, yes, there's still the insane, like, I don't tread on my lawn, whatever. But, like, guess what? Human beings, like, if you took out the government of every fucking country on the planet, the army would just take over and it would be fucking horrendous. So, like, governments exist. Like, sorry, we're all not, the odds that we're all going to kumbaya around the campfire and, like, it's, hold
Not gonna
hands.
happen.
It's like, well, you need you need rules somewhere, but it's like those rules can fit around a new tech, and that tech can grow around the rules. And to, like, this, it doesn't, like the Apple's example that I gave you again. Like, if this industry is willing to move forward with something that doesn't share that, this isn't equity ownership. Like, quite, if I had a company and I didn't raise money for the equity of that company, but a token was out there that theoretically represented my company, I could go sell 100% of that company's shares and the token holders would get fucking nothing. It's not my fault that the token holders perceive that token is a security, right? Like, it's legitimately not a security unless certain behavior occurs around it. So, like, to attempt to regulate it like it is, and think that's going to control things instead of just trying to get regulations under control, is like, that's what they're dealing with now. And this is no different than any other thing you see in the United States. Everything is like the markets, right? Everything just swings left and it swings right, right? Like, look, dude, look at the culture of the United States over the last four years, right? In 2021, you could get fired for a tweet that you wrote in 2012. And in 2022, they banned abortion, right? Like, think about that wild swing. And the answer, as always, lies somewhere in the middle. It's like, what if you didn't get fired for a tweet you made in 2022 when you were 17 years old, And what if you could get an abortion if you felt like it? Like, again, the answer always lies in the center, but we have these wild extreme swings. Look at what's swung this way. Now it's once again fine to comment on every single thing and get mad whenever Bud Light puts out a commercial or something about, I don't know, two people getting married that people don't like, right? What do you think is going to happen if Trump gets elected president? This is going to swing so hard to the left again because we've totally lost the ability to just rationally think and be like, yeah, I'm like fine with most things that happen because they don't impact my life at all. For the love of God, can someone just tell me like why I'm paying California 10% taxes and can't send my kids to the fucking schools here and like the roads don't work? Like, can anyone fucking answer that for me? Because I don't give a fuck about 90% of your issues. Like, we've just completely lost the fucking thing on that. Like, hey, can you guys stop spending money on inflation? And that, like, how are you printing so much money and taxing us so much money and yet nothing is getting better? Like, how is that not the only fucking question for both parties? It's absurd to me. Like, we are arguing over fucking nothing. But again, my point being, everything just swings left and it swings right and it swings left and it swings right. And in all honesty, that's probably how it's always been throughout like history, and we just think we're different because we live at this time. So who knows? I mean, I'm no activist. I'm not gonna try and change anything, but everything is the markets, basically. Every fucking thing is the markets. Up, down, up, down, up, down, left, right, left, right.
Rotations.
There you go. Except these rotations are
Painful, not pretty.
painful.
At this point, I think it's I honestly don't think we'll close on this. I don't think it's going to swing too far to the left. At this point, they try to just make it like both parties are just the wildest, like craziest people, and look what they did. And it's just like, I'm pretty numb to all this anymore. Like, I don't really care like what they're being accused of, like short of it being like corruption. Like, I don't, he did this and that. Okay, cool. Pretty used to all these senators being like shady as F, especially the one that was hiding gold bars in his wall.
Dude, I have no horse in either race. Like, from the bottom of my heart, I don't care. The only thing I care about is just acknowledging that both sides are ridiculous. But if you don't think that if Trump wins and he gets into power, that people aren't going to be like, oh yeah, like a lot of people are going to be like, oh yeah, I forgot this guy's insane and says insane stuff, and it's going to bring, and like years of that won't swing things back to the left. Again, it's very easy to say things. The president that's in power now tends to be towards the left, right? And so it's very easy for people to come out and have their sayings on the right because it is what it is. It'll swing back the other way so hard. That's just what it is. It's like, it's literally what it is. And there's like it's the most important thing is to acknowledge that. Like, me saying that isn't like insulting any presidential candidate or any particular person. It's just like an absolute non-disputable fact that happens over and over and over again. And the more people that can at least notice the pattern, maybe we can all just like stop getting pissed at each other for absolutely meaningless garbage and start making them like actually do stuff. It's just like, all right, you want to like have cool roads and great schools everywhere, like tax me, go ahead. But like, if you don't, can you maybe just like not tax me that much?
Well, if you're gonna print, don't tax me. Right? That's my take. Like, if you're just gonna if you're gonna blow the printer up, and we're not gonna tax enough to cover the deficit, just let's admit it's a Ponzi and let's roll.
Just leave me alone. Yeah.
Yeah, but don't try to just keep raising taxes and spending more or whatever. But anyway, this has flown by. We've hit like almost 2.5 hours. T, thank you so much. We're gonna wrap it up here. I'm gonna hop over and fire up the roundtable in the Discord if anybody wants to hop on. I don't know if it's getting pretty late if you guys, since this one went double the normal length, but I'll still fire it up if anybody's got any questions, and we'll go hang out there for a bit. But thanks again, bud, and we'll close with this. If you guys like this content, please like, comment, subscribe. We don't have any paywalls behind any of these videos. We do it for free. So if you like it, show us some love. Goes a long way. We're really trying to battle the YouTube algos. So anyway, we will talk to you guys next week.